I replayed Partners in Time quite recently, just like I did with Dream Team, Paper Jam, and Bowser's Inside Story. I was maybe thinking about remaking my boss ranking for this game, but unlike for Dream Team, I wouldn't say my ranking has changed too much. Because of this, I decided to remake my bros item ranking, which is not only a video that was made super long ago, my list has radically changed throughout the years of playing this game. I really don't think there are any special rules for this list. There are 10 bros items in the game, but you should know this. Let's just get right into the video, but before we get started, make sure to leave a like on the video and make sure to subscribe. But other than that, let's actually get started. The Fire Flower is the second bros item you get in the game, and my gosh, it doesn't age well. You are supposed to spam either A or B depending on where the fireball is. If it's the babies, then obviously it's X and Y. I really don't like how the Fire Flower controls in this game. The spamming doesn't work as well as it should, and it just feels inconsistent. Not only that though, the Fire Flower is just a super weak bros attack in general, even weaker than the green shell. I guess the Fire Flower trades damage for the burn chance, which I really don't think is worth it. Really, the only time that the Fire Flower is useful is during the lead Hammer Bros fight. And at that point, for sure, go on ahead and spam this attack. It'll work way better than the green shell. After that though, just go for the Cannonballer since it is so much stronger. Even the argument of it serving a more unique purpose to other bros attacks is pretty flawed. Even though it serves a different purpose to the Cannonballer and the Smash Egg, the Ice Flower becomes much stronger to use compared to the generic Fire Flower. And when we include the Mix Flower into this, the bros item serves no unique purpose anymore. Would you rather kill an enemy straight up or let it burn to death, which takes much longer? It also has some cases where you shouldn't use it because of elements. While yes, the Ice Flower has this too, the Fire Flower has many more. At least the damage spreads out pretty evenly compared to the Smash Egg and Green Shell, so when dealing with normal enemies, it's not the worst thing in the world. It also can be used when the babies and bros are separated, which is a bigger positive the better the bros item is. And to be fair, you can't use the Mixed Flower with only 2 members, but you can still use the Ice Flower. There just isn't much of a purpose to use this bros item over many others, since not only is it super weak, it is pretty difficult to use, which is why it's number 10. I think the Smash Egg might be slightly underrated in the grand scheme of things, but it isn't anything special. This is the 4th bros item you get in the game, and you don't have endless attacks yet, but you still have better bros items to use like the Cannonballer. The Smash Egg has a terrible damage spread, so you might as well use it as an attack to hit only one enemy. You get only around 5 or 6 hits with the Smash Egg, so it feels super underwhelming to something like the Green Shell, even though it does do more damage. It doing more damage is why it is above the Fire Flower though, and also the fact of it giving you an item a decent amount of the time after pulling it off successfully. It's a good way to somewhat farm for trampolines or copy flowers at the end of the game, and it even gives 1-up supers. I don't know if you guys knew this, but the Smash Egg gives enemies the Dizzy effect. It's so insanely rare to me though. Or it might just be that I don't use it enough to actually get it. I think the problem comes with the same thing as the Fire Flower. There isn't any use to this bros item. Why use the Smash Egg when you can use the Cannonballer or the Green Shell? The Cannonballer does much more damage, and the game gives you an abundance of green shells at the beginning of the game. It does have a single boss that it is useful for, and that being the Kamek fight. You use it specifically to take out the clones and do extra damage to the real boss in one clean swoop. It's better than the Fire Flower, but it's not that much better. It can be used with only 2 members, which is also nice, but when combined with all 4, the improvement is non-existent aside from more power. It's considerably weaker to the rest of the bros items in this game, which is why it deserves number 9. People are gonna be confused on why the green shell isn't at the bottom. And don't get me wrong, it does have flaws. It feels pretty weak compared to other bros items. When one enemy is defeated, unlike the red shell, it doesn't go to a new enemy to deal more damage. It just ends. Even if it hasn't run out of durability, it will just disappear with the enemy, which is pretty annoying. Also, the red shell's existence is obviously going to make the green shell worse. Not only does it do more damage, not only does it go onto a new enemy after one is defeated, it will go on for an infinite amount of time. Even though this is the first bros item you get in the game, you don't even specifically use it for a boss fight since you unlock fire flowers for the lead hammer bros. So why is it not at the bottom even though it feels super outclassed by literally everything? Well, the game kinda knew how bad the green shell would get, so they give you so many green shells and item blocks. Because of this, when you start heading into the endgame and partners in time, it isn't worth it to jump or use your hammer anymore. It's more worth it to use a green shell since it doesn't cost anything. It's really the only bros item that gets better over time. The others are either amazing and never go down in quality, or deteriorate when other stronger bros attacks come into play. I also think that the usefulness in the endgame is a bigger priority to me personally compared to the Smash Egg and Fire Flower being useful for very specific parts of the beginning, which is why I personally think it should be at number 8. People would definitely expect the first real powerful bros item to be higher on this list, but I'm not really sure how to feel about it. The Cannonballer is good for a couple of bosses in this game, Swiggler, Kamek, and especially Sunnyside. It does a lot of damage to these guys compared to everything you have up to this point, and it isn't really that close. It's also the easiest bros item to pull off in the game. Having to press 4 buttons in order is pretty simple to do, and it's appreciated for some people that the Cannonballer is short. Even though the endless attacks are stronger, they're obviously endless, which means it would take a decent amount of time to pull off. But speaking of the endless attacks, well, there's a reason why the Cannonballer is so low. I don't think there is a reason why to use the Cannonballer over the Pocket Chomp. And when you get the Trampoline and Copy Flower, just forget about it. Not only do the others do more damage, the Cannonballer doesn't do anything to stand out. I did mention it being shorter, and for sure it is, but I personally don't care about the length of the attack. It's also an attack that needs all 4 members to pull off. That adds to the pointlessness of picking the Cannonballer when you will have access to every single bros item regardless. It's pretty strong early game, but once you get to Gritty Desert, the Pocket Chomp takes its place, which is why it's number 7. Trampolines are pretty low on this list, but I do want to mention that every bros item from now on are pretty overpowered. The trampoline is put into a weird spot in the game. You get the bros attack right at Gritzy Caves, and then get the Copy Flower at Thwomp Caverns. Because of this, there really isn't much time for you to get good at the trampoline, or let alone use it. It's pretty effective against PD Piranha, and it's good against Mrs. Thwomp. The Copy Flower then replaces it. I don't get why they basically made the same bros attack 2 times in a row, especially since the Copy Flower is better in basically every way. The trampoline is at least a strong endless attack like I mentioned, so it isn't weak, and it even has a chance of giving the dizzy effect. It's kinda rare, but it doesn't feel as rare as the Smash Eggs. The problems obviously arise because of the existence of the Copy Flower. The Copy Flower is faster, the Copy Flower is stronger, and the Copy Flower is easier to pull off to me personally. I also personally never liked when the attack hits multiple enemies at once instead of going from enemies one at a time. It's a lot of personal preferences that can make you either a trampoline person or a Copy Flower person. From the trampoline being at number 6, you know what person I have become. The red shell seems so useless to a lot of people, and I can see why. This is a bros item that is obtained very late into the game that seems kinda useless compared to the copy flower. And yes, it does have its flaws. It can only hit ground enemies, which is a surprisingly huge problem since I'd say half of the enemies left in the game are now in the air. I also don't think it does as much damage as I thought it would have. But why would you use the red shell over all the bros items in the game that I have mentioned? Well, I first think that it's better to use this item compared to every single bros attack aside from maybe the trampoline. With the trampoline though, the thing that beat it out was the red shell being able to be used with only 2 members. It's the second best way to damage enemies with only 2 people. It's also a bros attack that is pretty easy to perform. Since it controls almost exactly how the green shell does, you have practice with this bros attack naturally. I also love that once you take out a single enemy, it retargets to a different one right away. And to top it off, it's an endless attack, which is nice for putting it in the top half, but when dealing with this top 4, it won't be enough, which is why it's number 5. Everyone loves the ice flower for very good reasons. I even think people would think it should be higher. So obviously the ice flower is great for really one thing and one thing only. The debuffs that the enemies get when using the ice flower are amazing. You lower the most important stats in the game for a boss, this being their power, their speed, and most importantly their defense. Once that is lowered, you just start pummeling the boss with your most powerful attacks at that point. And after that, you don't need the ice flower anymore. So this is where the catch starts coming in with the ice flower. I use it for the first couple of attacks to lower the boss's defense, and that is it. After that, it becomes useless. It doesn't do a lot of damage normally since it is a bros attack that is early in the game. It also has the same problem with the fire flower, and that it's pretty difficult to pull off since the controls just feel off. For some reason, I think that might be easier with the ice flower than the fire flower, but they control the exact same. It's also very worthy to point out that some bosses do not get debuffs. I know for a fact that Princess Shroob doesn't receive any, which is a big problem. With all these problems, I think it's one of the worst bros items to use for normal enemies, and comparing it to the bros items in the top 3, it fills its niche for sure, but that is all it truly does, which is why it's only number 4. This thing is overpowered. I don't even think anyone would disagree that this might possibly be the most overpowered bros attack next to attacks like the falling star from Bowser's Inside Story. The concept is simple. All 4 party members make copies of themselves, and you have to press the right button that matches to the party member on the screen. It's completely endless, so if you do not mess up, cool, you will continue going forever. This bros attack does so much damage, and when I mean a lot of damage, I mean if you have defense debuffs on a boss, you could do over 1,000 damage with just one of these. Here's the thing though, I just personally prefer other bros attacks compared to this one. I think at the end, it gets pretty impossible to pull it off. It's also paired with me not being amazing at this bros attack because of the skill needed. I also don't like that you can't use this with only 2 party members, which puts it lower than the last endless attack on this list. I think objectively this could be the strongest bros item of all time, but for me personally, it's only at number 3. If you asked me 2 years ago if I would say that the Pocket Chomp would be my favorite endless attack in this game, I would have laughed. But the Pocket Chomp has so many advantages compared to a lot of endless attacks in this game. First off, I do need to point out that this is the very first endless bros item you get in the entire game. Because of this, you are going to be forced to use this during fights like the Shroob Brat, but more on that fight later. I absolutely love that you can use this attack with only 2 party members. The only other endless bros item that has this quality is the red shell, but that one has many more problems compared to this. It's also really easy to pull off for a very long time. This brings me back to the Shroob Brat. When I did this boss fight, I used the Ice Flower to lower his defense, and then I took out a Pocket Chomp. I took out this boss fight with a single Pocket Chomp, and I didn't even mess up once. It's impressive in general to do a feat like this, but I was able to do this for many more enemies and other bosses to a lesser degree. Commander Shroob, Mrs. Thwomp, and the Bowser duo became cakewalks because of the Ice Flower Pocket Chomp combo. This may sound like a flawless bros item because of how I'm talking about it, but there are some flaws. It is a very slow bros item to pull off, especially the way I'm using it where I take out the boss in a few amount of turns. I also think that the baby's involvement when everyone is together is just not smart to use. It may be smart at the beginning to get some extra damage, but if you hit the wrong button, then the Chain Chomp gets more mad and he gets faster. You really don't want that, so it's not worth it to use. Overall though, this is my favorite Endless Bros item in the game, and the Copy Flower doesn't even come that close. It is personal preference for it being high, and it does have a decent amount of flaws, which is why it is only at number 2. The number 1 spot goes to the last bros item you get in the game. And of course it is strong. The thing that kind of surprises me the most is that it isn't endless. Well, I mean it could be endless, but the benefit is non-existent. This bros attack is easily the best for taking out normal enemies. While the other bros items can do just as much damage as the Mixed Flower, the Mixed Flower takes out every single enemy in an area, doing hundreds and hundreds of damage easily. Not only that, you have the burn chance that, while is rare, it's a very good debuff to give to enemies. Now people would be confused that the Copy Flower isn't number 1, or my personal favorite Endless Attack being number 1. While those bros items are very good at taking out bosses, and I mean really good at taking out bosses, the Mixed Flower makes every single enemy fight left in the game a complete joke. The endgame enemies that most people struggle with are a cakewalk when you use it. I don't think I could put into words how easy Shroob Castle becomes, as well as Star Shrine. I absolutely love this bros item to death, and it's why it landed at number 1 easily on this list. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you lasted this long, you might as well leave a like and subscribe. I also have a podcast called The Flatmates on the screen now and in the description below, but other than that, G-bye.